All right, good morning. This is Georgia Truck Driver Nation. I'm doing this early. I'm probably not all the way awake. So just kind of wrap your head around that if I start stumbling and mumbling. But anyways, let's get started. This is going to be what we're going to discuss. We're talking about fuel costs and saving strategies as an independent freight dispatcher. So if you actually can implement this with your owner operator because he requested, you just want to know how to do it. Most people are not going to give a crap about the route really and truly based on what you've got to say because these are experienced drivers. Um, most time you ain't got to even think about the route. The United States. The owner operator's been out there. You know it as well as he does. So that's for people that obviously coming out of being truck drivers that turned end up getting trained by me to be freight dispatchers. But anyways, the fuel costs are one of the biggest expenses in the trucking industry. As an independent freight dispatcher, helping the carriers reduce fuel costs can increase their profitability and make your services more valuable if they actually work with you. Now, below are some key strategies to reduce fuel expenses, along with step by steps and instructions on how to implement them. So when I go down my little script here, I'm going to tell you what I know, where I know it's at, and everybody knows something different. So this is ain't, the gospel according to the angels falling out of heaven type of deal. So route optimization says itself. It's route, and you're optimizing that given route from point A to point B, whether it's whatever type of load. So how to do it. So it's, obviously, which is just common sense, use the load boards and mapping software. I don't use no mapping software. Some people got that advantage. You probably got a lot of trucks, and over the year, it really does save you a lot of money on a corporate side. But when you're actually a smaller independent freight dispatcher, a lot of it's just common sense. The biggest thing you're going to help this driver to be able to make sure that all the fuel's covered is get that freight price up. But anyways, utilizing platforms like Truckstop, DAT, and Google Maps to plan the shortest and most fuel efficient routes are good tools to use. I only use Google Maps. I don't mess with that. Truckstop, anybody else that's got nothing out of it. I've used it for years, and before that, we had map books. Now, avoid congested areas. Good luck with this. There's so many people. There's basically one person and one car, and that's what you're seeing on the road. There ain't no ride share and stuff that I've ever really noticed all the years I drove trucks. So when you're going through these cities, your best option is to really truly have a baseline understanding. One, when's the peak hours? And also traffic patterns because construction definitely throws a main traffic pattern often at every side road. And sometimes you're better off running actually way out. I mean, I've actually went way out coming around through like out of New York and all that. Just skip all that crap. And that way you're just better if you're actually doing a long distance because my whole life was over the road. But anyways, check real-time traffic updates using apps like Trucker Path and Waze to find alternative routes. Waze itself is only good if the people are going to enter the data because most time when you're on Waze is people actually punching it in as they see it. Hey, there's a cop at the 132 on I-20 and Arkansas. I mean I-20 and coming out of Jackson, Mississippi, for example. So when you're doing that, that's the main way that Waze is update. Trucker Path, like I said, I don't. Trucker Path used to be one of the primary ones. It's, for whatever reason, it seems like to me it kind of fell back. Waze is kind of a little bit better one, but a lot of people don't use nothing. They're just GPS in it, and the GPS will usually ask you, "Here's an alternative route. Do you want to accept a new route or not?" And sometimes they give you a small justification or rationale why that is to use that new route, or if you know your route in the back of your mind versus that new route, which is it a state highway? Now, obviously, the GPS should protect your truck from actually hitting a 12 6-foot bridge, right? But just make sure your software inside your GPS stays up to date. Now, you plan your rest stops efficiently. I'm gonna tell you about rest stops. Average time that it ever took me to get in and out of a rest stop, whether I was stopping with one like TA, Flying J, whatever it is, it depends on just how it was set up. They used to have it where there was food trucks outside some of the stops, out there on the road. It wouldn't be on their property, but it'd be out there. So it was great. You could pull up there. It'd be some Mexican boy out there doing his thing. And you run over and grab you something, you're out. These days, it just varies depending on, the given area, parking availability. So I don't never stop inside the city areas. I always wait till I get outside. Like if I'm coming out of Dallas Fort Worth, I'm going down 35. go out there. I think that's a Petro or TA, whatever that is. It's a nice truck stop. But thing is, when you go in these truck stops, knowing what you're going to get there, whatever you need, bathroom or food or whatever it is, these restaurants sometimes, if they're not big food chains, which I hate them, but it's the smaller food chains, they might be in and out because they couldn't afford to pay the rental space money because they don't have bulk advertising and stuff. So just knowing your route, if you're on a steady route, if you're on a route that's long distance, you may not know where you're going. And sometimes you get in areas where just ain't nothing and you end up suffering. Get off, waste your time. So planning rest stops efficiently. Choose rest stops area near low cost fuel stations to refuel strategically. And just remember, if you get a cheap place, keep it in the back of your mind when you get there. If it's not a lot of people in there, how much water is in that fuel? Okay, because your fuel filter separates that water out, and so you don't want to buy a bunch of trash and stuff it down your tanks because when you do get low down on fuel, down below a quarter tank or whatever, it starts sucking that shit up because your truck is rattling back and forth, so it keeps it stirred up in the actual fuel content. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're actually choosing the location where to get your fuel. Now consider weather conditions. Excuse me. I told you I just woke up. Monitor forecasts to avoid routes with extreme winds or snow, which increase fuel usage. That might be logical in some few aspects, but if you're actually an OTR driver, there's only so many roads that we actually really use to make time and get there. Now, obviously, if you got a 90 car pileup, like in Wyoming and places like that where that just happens, then obviously you want to avoid that. I won't give a shit if I have to go 100 miles out of route. I'm not getting wrapped up in that. That's an all day venture. And, if I start seeing high winds, make sure the weight in your truck actually fits the giving situation. I never run with less than 25,000 pounds in my trailer to ensure, hopefully, and it depends on how it's stacked too. I want it low centered that I might not even go through that area based on wind conditions. So obviously staying ahead of that, but you can actually take your truck, and if you're fighting against the wind, it's a frontal wind or even from the sides, but definitely frontal stuff at any given angle within that, basically, I'm not gonna say 180 degrees, but just within the vision of your windshields, you'll see your fuel if you don't have, because it bases on your data how much your miles per gallon is going to be. It'll definitely pull your fuel down. If you're going hundreds and hundreds of miles, you'll start to see it drop off. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with the weather. Fuel discount programs. This is give or take, your best option. Um, for me, I always thought it was. I used Mudflap. Mudflap was a good one. I could get a really good discount immediately. Now you got to have cash in the bank because it gives you a code. You take that code into the fuel desk. They turn that pump on, and you pump the amount of gallons that you already prepaid for, and the savings is instantaneous. Now, we'll go through these. Get a fuel card, sign up for fuel cards like RTS. RTS also, is like insurance and stuff like that. But Fleet One, REFS, and got to get per gallon discounts. Now, some of these companies, when you're putting money on it, if it's like a prepaid fuel card, some of them take a while to get the money on those cards. And I ain't got time to sit around for somebody to play with my money. I want to be able to protect those funds, put them on that card. When I use them immediately. And so that way I don't have to sit and keep guessing, well, how much money do I have on this given card? I got more crap, more important to worry about than that. Now, if you want your freight dispatcher and me as a freight dispatcher, if you want me to handle that, to keep that money on there, then it's my job to know, obviously, when I have to put those funds on there for you because I work for you as a freight dispatcher. Now compare fuel prices. Use app like I told you. I use this one, Mudflap, or Fuel Book. I've never used Fuel Book to locate the cheapest diesel prices along the route. And those are good. Like I said, Fuel Book, I don't never done, but Mudflap, I 100% suggest that one. I thought it was a great. I mean, when I found it, I was like, this really helps. And you'll actually see how much money they charge you extra at TA, Pilot, Loves, and all that for no real reason. To get get a shower ticket. I can go to these same places that Mudflap says, and if they got showers there, it'll tell you if they got showers there. You're talking about $5. So I'm gonna go in there for $5, take my shower. I might have to bring my towel or whatever, but you know what? At least if I'm bringing my towel, I know the towel's clean. Because you don't know people's practices, attention to detail, because it could become a vector for sickness or whatever it is. I'm not saying that happens, but you have to think outside the box because you protect yourself. Other people are not going to look out for your best interest. Negotiate bulk fuel purchases. Now, if you've got, obviously, if you're a carrier and you have multiple trucks, work with truck stop chains for volume discounts. You can call the corporate offices if you're going to do that. If you're on a route, just go talk to them because you're already there and say, hey, I'm going to send my trucks through here. Can we open an account with you? And however you're going to sell that debt at any period, like every 3 days or every week or however it's going to be, because they have to pay for that fuel too as a fuel, a fuel island. So you got to make sure that obviously you got the funds to cover that. You don't want to, cause problems and lose that line of credit because they're trusting you. And obviously you got to have a history. You got to really see, if they know who you are, if your trucks have been going through there anyways and stuff like that. They don't want to be trying to run you a credit line. They have no idea who you are. But obviously you definitely want to negotiate your rates on, whatever the discounts are going to be to ensure that you're maximizing your ability to keep fuel costs down to begin with. Okay. Fuel efficient driving practices. Before I get into this, a lot of trucks actually regularly get good fuel mileage based on the type of tractor you have. If it's a 379 or a W900 or something like that, I don't know what the newest ones are getting, but the older ones are not that great. The new trucks, we'll call them ground sniffers, right? You're talking whether it's Cascadia, whatever, they're getting upwards of 7.5, 8.5, depending if the maintenance and everything's been kept up to spec. So that way the engine's operating optimally. So you can actually do pretty good on those, but any dollar or any penny saved is always up for the grab. So limit idling. Encourage drivers to turn off the engines during long stops. Excessive idling burns up to 1 gallon per hour. At 1 gallon, X number of dollars for everywhere you got that. So you can definitely see at 1 hour, and if they're crashed out for 10, that's almost $100 in fuel, just in the general knowledge. Okay, I'm doing, you know, um, so basically I'm going 10 if it's $4 a gallon. Okay, 1 gallon per hour. I'm sorry, that's wrong. It'll be $40 per stop. So I don't know where the hell my math come from. I told you I just woke up. But anyways, that's $40 that you've burnt at fuel unnecessarily. And you've got EPUs and APUs on there, which actually will feed off the fuel tanks for the APUs. But on the EPUs, it's obviously chargeable running off your battery banks and everything. But and also they got I don't know if they still use it or not. It was optimized idle. It used to be complicated to use. I'm sure they made it idiot proof now. So make sure that you get those features, but are they worth the investment when you purchase your truck? That's a deciding factor on whatever freight and what your market's going to be. So are you making enough money to offset that given investment? So maintain a steady speed and also the speed. Keep the speeds down. I used to have a trucking company that when I worked with them, this dude was an instructor and I went with the flow because it's his truck. I was being trained. That was when I originally started driving trucks. He'd say, well, knock off the cruise control when you're going down the mountain because it keeps pumping fuel. But right before you hit the bottom, re-engage so you're picking up enough speed to get up the next mountain. Talk about a lot of extra bullshit. Dude, I would never tell nobody to do that. Just hit the damn thing on cruise. Let the engine is set for different parameters to engage at those points. Let it do its thing. If I've got to milk that damn truck for that type of fuel, it sounds like that truck needs to be parked. But maintaining a steady speed, teach drivers to use cruise control on highways to reduce fuel consumptions. And then whether it does eco or any of that stuff, you're already up to speed. You're just trying to maintain that level of speed. And also it's going to be dependent on the weight. So when you're actually loading your truck, remember the weights on the truck all your trucks are going to have 44,500. Some trucks will hold up to 47,000. But if you're going to have that 44,500, you're going to suck the hell out of fuel. Don't take a genius now, more weight, more fuel. Because if you're doing RGN, there's times when you can get so damn heavy, it's like a half a gallon per mile. I mean, a gallon per half a mile or something. So you can definitely make a truck suck that fuel and it will do it and it won't even ask it. You'll just figure it out down the road. But, as long as they set that cruise control and whatever terrain based on that weight, then obviously that will definitely help your situation when it comes to the fuel cost. Use progressive shifting. That's instruct students to shift gears at lower RPMs for better fuel efficiency. If they don't understand, I know this sounds, oh, that's so easy. Just show them how to progressively shift gears. But if they don't understand what the RPMs are anyways, Snyder used to have color codes on their RPMs just to try to get it where they'd understand it. Good luck with that. you're better off making sure all the trucks are automatic, which a majority of them are at this given point, and let that handle the issue. That's the reason you got so many people with restrictions on it. And any manual companies, it's kind of hard to get drivers since I recruit. It's hard to get drivers sometimes for those manual trucks. Now, avoid hard braking and rapid acceleration. Smooth driving reduces fuel consumption and extends engine life. Yes, it does. But, hard braking, one, you're going to shift your load. So any genius with any speck of understanding about what's back there in that trailer, you really don't want to be slamming on those brakes. And it's not, because it has ABS on it anyways. So just be aware of that. And acceleration, yeah, you can punch it to the floor, but you're not going to do rapid acceleration like what you would think. But it definitely burns more fuel because it's pumping, 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 trying to get up to that speed that you're trying to get it up to rapidly. So all that speed shifting and stuff. Remember, you got a drive line, and they'll sure the hell tear that drive line out from under, especially if you're on a grade. It really ups the overall torque that's putting pressure on that drive line, and you'll rip it out from under it. Now you're going to drive line. Good luck with that one. You're going to be there for a minute. But anyways, let's go down to regular vehicle maintenance. This is keeping everything in the specs according to it. If you got a warranty on the truck, keep it up to speed. If you're patching it as it goes to keep the truck going, um, it just depends on, if you're doing all the maintenance yourself, I guess go that way. But regular vehicle maintenance, check your tire pressure weekly. Absolutely. If you're dealing with the Loves, they'll actually check it for you. They won't take air out of the tires, but they'll definitely put air in the tires according to whatever your tires are rated on whichever portion of the truck your tires are on. So proper inflation improves the fuel efficiency by up to 3%. I know it don't sound like a lot, but it adds up over a 12-month period. Use low viscosity engine oils, reduces internal engine friction, and improves fuel economy. That's going to be synthetic oils, which basically everybody's on those at this given point because of the engines, the way they're spec'd out. And so, if they decide to pull the oil, and you're not doing the oil, I mean, they actually can have the right to even avoid your warranty. Anything to get them out from under the hammer to make their life easier and throw all of it onto you. I don't care if you're the manufacturer, the dealership, whatever, everybody's going to try to throw the problems on you. That's the reason. There's so many reasons, in my personal opinion, just not to be a driver, to just be a freight dispatcher. So replace air filters regularly. That's obvious, but depends on the terrain. If you're out in North Dakota, South Dakota, running out in the Permian Basin, Midland, Texas, oil fields, stuff like that, damn dirt's in the air. If you're out there long enough, you'll come in at the end of the day and you're covered with white crap, dirt, basically all over your face and stuff. So making sure those fuel filters are clean. If the truck can't breathe, now it's huffing and puffing to do the same work and stay just as efficient as it would be if you're running cleaner areas. Without that resistance. So a clean air filter improves fuel efficiency by up to 10% or more. It's really important. It takes more fuel for that truck to huff and puff and still perform at that level than it is if it can breathe correctly. So make sure those air intakes are clean. Ensure aerodynamic efficiency. That's the whole thing about the tractor. Encourage adding fairings, side skirts, and trailer tails. That's the ones that kind of come out the angle. What it does is it keeps that to reduce the wind resistance. So when that wind comes off the top of that trailer or around the sides, it actually kind of pulls like a back suction. I know that sounds crazy, but any of that skirt stuff that would take those, if you knew aviation, you kind of get it a little bit better. But in a truck, it's obviously not a factor in keeping, your lift. But in this situation, it throws that wind out away from that truck and kind of reduces the vacuum. Like if obviously on the tractor, if it goes around the front of that tractor and goes in between that and the bulkhead of the trailer, it does increase resistance, and you got air going under the truck increases resistance, and then the turbulence behind the truck increases resistance, not even including the frontal resistance. So, aerodynamic trucks, and we know everybody used to put skirts on the top or like baffles. I'm going to say baffle, but that's not what it's called. But where it blows the wind upwards and over the top of the trailer. That was probably one of the first things that I'm aware of that we ever used on trucks to try to increase the aerodynamic, because all trucks were basically flat nosed to some degree, because we were running cab overs and things like that. Of course, if you go way back, they were different before my time. But when I came in, cab overs were still the thing. But anyways, fuel tax planning, IFTA management, your government. Okay, so Track your fuel purchases, keep the receipts, and log fuel purchases by state and tax reporting. Don't run more taxes because every state charges according to the IFTA. So don't pay more taxes than you have to. Um, Anyways, avoiding buying too much high tax fuel taxes. I don't know how Oregon, Utah, they got their own numbers and stuff, but every state's independent. Every state's a country, right? United States. So in each of those states, they got their own parameters about how they're going to charge for this IFTA. So make sure you understand where you're running, what you can have to expect, and where you need to buy fuel in order to, not obviously keep from paying that IFTA tax and reduce that expenditure on yourself. Purchasing more fuel in states with lower tax rates to reduce the IFTA liability, absolutely. Use fuel tax calculation software. I don't use none of this, but I guess if you want to, your accountant should. Programs like ProMiles, which I think is pretty expensive, and IFTA Plus, never used it. They help calculate fuel taxes accurately. So make sure whoever's doing your taxes and your accountant, they understand you got to look at the IFTA. We used to have to go from state to state. I don't know if that saved them money because we screwed it up, but you'd put your beginning mileage, enter in that given state, and then your exit mileage. And what I would do is I would start my beginning mileage, and every time I exited that state, just hit that exit and just kept on going. And by the time you got back, I usually didn't do it coming back if I was just coming back because I usually stayed on a constant route, like say pulling apples I'd go from Jackson, Mississippi out there at Forest, Mississippi, pick up chickens, run it out there either to LA or Washington State, and then backhaul with apples down to Blue Bonnet down there in Baton Rouge. So that one, it was a constant route. So I knew the previous week already had my mileages. So kept those mileages and just, I knew how many miles. So if it was 300 miles or whatever, all I have to do is just add it onto the odometer reading, and that would bring me up to spec. So, submit IFTA reports on time. Ensure quarterly reports are filed correctly to avoid penalties. It's always somebody wanting to get more money out of your pocket. So make sure these are on file. So whoever's responsible for filing your stuff, they have to stay on it. So make sure your freight dispatcher understands these responsibilities if they're incurring this responsibility from you as a owner operator. As a freight dispatcher, make sure you understand how this is done, so that way you're not putting yourself in a situation where, like, I don't know how it's done. Now, that's going to red flag you as being a freight dispatcher to some degree, because yeah, they want you to get freight, but they might need that extra service. That's the reason they're reaching out to you. Now, the advantage of that, obviously, you can charge higher percentage, and it justifies the percentage that you are charging in order to assist that owner operator with your freight dispatch service. Now, final thoughts. By implementing these strategies, you can help your carriers cut costs, increase their profits, and build strong long-term relationships in the trucking industry. Absolutely. As an independent freight dispatcher, the more value you provide, the more you can charge for your service. Okay. Let's see. Outside of that, that's about it that I'm going to cover in this. Some of these you can get more detail. This is the basic schematic of what we're looking at on fuel expenses. So, but if you have questions, if you give me direct content or not direct content questions, I can answer what you need to do and how it needs to be done. I'm not saying I know everything. I'm sure the hell not no accountant, but I know how to do this. So, anyways, get with me. Go to truckdrivernation.com. There's a link in there where you can actually directly text us, send them like a message, or you can give us a call, 210-343-1118, 210-343-1118, or email us at support@truckdrivernation.com, support@truckdrivernation.com. But get a hold of us and we can assist you with this. And but they definitely know how, as a freight dispatcher, because that's what I'm training everybody to become, that how you can take this information, convert it to, I'm not saying a sell feature, but your overall services to the owner operator, so that takes more off of his shoulders. So that's a good feature. If this has to be an add-on to generate that account with that given owner operator, these are tools to secure that owner operator. So tell them, hey, fuel cost savings, knowing how to work with IFTA, knowing how to plan your route, if you need me to, whatever they need you to do in that overall trip to ensure the fuel efficiency. But remember, it comes down to the owner operator being in that truck and knowing his own equipment. So, but anyways, I hope this helped. If you need assistance, get a hold of me. Thank you for visiting Truck Driver Nation. Remember, if you want to be a driver recruiter and get out of those trucks, get to Truck Driver Nation. Let's get you signed up. It don't take a long time to get this handled and get you where now you're dispatching and not driving the truck and dealing with all those extra burdens that even is inside of driving that truck, late night, snow, weather, breakdowns, etc. that you'll be assisting as a freight dispatcher, but you're not dealing with it. So, and you got more quality time at home. You get to work from home, all those great features that being a freight dispatcher provides you now. And but anyways, thank you for your time. Give us a holler. Thank you for reaching out to Truck Driver Nation, whether you're watching our content or you're reaching out to us for services. But we definitely appreciate everybody that's been a client and we still work with, because we don't want to lose you once you get trained and once you get you going. We love networking with everybody we have. Got a lot of different personalities. People have accepted my craziness, and that's great because I'm very off page sometimes because it's just the person I am being a truck driver. But anyways, we definitely appreciate your business as a client, and we thanks everybody for leaving those comments, because it makes us feel like, hey, we're on the right page. We know we're on the right page, but we want to know people are reading the content that it's good for you. And I mean, it's the stuff that actually gets you from point A to point B, and so we know we're on the right track, that we're actually helping people. But anyways, thank you so much. But and you drivers out there on the road, please be safe out there, and we look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you so much.